Greetings. With artificial intelligence being the hot topic in the news because of the arrival of certain consumer products, meaning that many consumers are experiencing artificial intelligence for the very first time, or at least so they think, all of these scare memes surrounding artificial intelligence are getting a big boost, and the media is in the business of frightening people or making them discouraged and despondent. Remember, the economics of media in the modern age is about the extent of emotional engagement, and pessimism sells more than optimism. And one of the easiest things to frighten people about is the narrative that artificial intelligence will take their job away because artificial intelligence does the same work for lower cost. Now, this is a much more nuanced issue than it is being presented as, but the mainstream ordinary person cannot process all of that nuance and cannot consider all the complexities associated with the impact of artificial intelligence on labor. That's why it's easy to scare the average person with the belief that AI is going to take away their jobs. It's very similar to the belief that immigration suppresses wages. That is actually not true. That is true at the lowest end of the skill ladder, but anything other than the lowest end of the skill ladder, that is not the case, because while the immigrant represents an increase in labor supply, the immigrant also buys things, thereby increasing demand. So that issue is a lot more complicated, but people who want to use immigration as a fear meme often push that narrative as well. And a very similar concept applies to AI. So the real question is, what is the conversion rate between AI and jobs that humans do? Because once you understand some of the nuances around this topic, you have taken your first step towards using AI to make money for yourself, or using AI to get a lot of work done at very little time and effort on your part, and thereby choosing to either work a lot less or make much more money. But this video is foundational for you to understand the first step of how to think about AI and how to figure out how to implement it in a manner that earns profit for you. So, what is the conversion rate between AI and jobs that humans do? Consider the following. Job loss from AI is only visible at the lower end of AI productivity. So the least productive types of artificial intelligence are the ones that everyone fixates on in terms of replacement of human labor, quite ironically. And I will show you exactly what that means. You have all probably seen these types of robots in restaurants. And this is an instance of a robot worker replacing a human waiter by delivering food to the restaurant customers. Now, this robot might be slightly more productive than a human because this robot does not need breaks. It can work on weekends. It does not require any other benefits. But otherwise, we just have an instance of one robot replacing one human worker. And the robot happens to be pink too, so apparently it's a female waitress. But this robot might be just 20% more productive than a human as far as the entire operation of the waitress's job. But since one robot has replaced one human, it's easy to point to, hey, this robot took away a person's job and the waitress doesn't have a job. And since it's only a one-for-one replacement, the business model of the restaurant does not change. The profitability of the restaurant maybe rose a little bit, but the business model itself did not change because you have a robot walking in the walkways of the restaurant rather than a human, and the robot does not require tips. But this is the most visible type of artificial intelligence that the average person sees, and therefore becomes the fixation of whether automation is taking away their jobs. A robot is not even dematerialized, whereas most AI is within the cloud and is not partitioned into one particular unit that replaces one person's job. If AI is very horizontal and doing a lot of functions, it is in fact doing tasks assigned across millions of people, which brings us to how you should think about this. Beyond 2x human productivity, the business model of an establishment itself changes, so humans were not doing this work before anyway. Put another way, we saw that robot that might be 1.2 times as productive as a human. What happens to a business when an artificial intelligence function is 5 times more productive than a human, or 10 times, or 50 times, or 100 times? Does that take away human jobs? The first instinct of most lay people would be yes. But in reality, the business model itself changes when you have that huge of a gain in productivity, that immense of a fountain of productivity. So now I'll take you to the opposite extreme of productivity gain for a very narrow application, and we'll work backwards from there. So this is a story in which I'm going to have some artistic license because I've heard these things secondhand through my work at Stanford. But if someone who is more directly connected to the events and institutions surrounding this has more accurate information, I will freely admit that there's some artistic license over here. At Stanford University, on the hills, if you've ever visited here, you may have seen these radio telescope dish antennas. And these radio telescopes look at the heavens and acquire a lot of images of astrophysical features in the cosmos. Astrophysics, cosmology, everything is addressed through these radio telescopes. And these images generated used to take the astrophysicists, who are of course humans, 4 months to examine for all of the little nuances and discoveries that they're seeking. 4 months. Then, one fine day, the computer science department of Stanford, in the computer vision subdepartment, created an artificial intelligence program that could scan all of those images in 1 second. Now, the reason it took the humans 4 months to scan all those images is because those images are not just pictures. Those are images of celestial objects very far away, and some of these images are three-dimensional in nature because space is curved in the fourth dimension, as we know, and we three-dimensional humans can see peripheral evidence of a fourth dimension from time to time. We can't point to the fourth dimension, but we are aware that space is curved and some evidence of a fourth dimension is apparent to us. And a lot of the more successful science fiction franchises and films have also taken advantage of this fact. So those images that those astrophysicists might look at for 4 months are images like this one, and by super magnification of a small section, they might find something of interest, but then again, they have to take into account the curvature of space and the three-dimensionality of the images because of the fourth dimension of space and things like that. So what took the astrophysicists 4 months to do now took only 1 second with that computer vision algorithm. AI is created to be hyper-specialized. This particular artificial intelligence can only do this one thing. It can't go do something else. It's not versatile like ChatGPT, which is a much more horizontal generalist AI, but it's not that much more productive for certain things. This is a hyper-specialized, narrowly focused AI that can do just one thing, but for that reason, it can do that one thing 10 million times faster than a human. There are about 10 million seconds in 4 months. If you assume the humans were working 24 hours a day by handing off the work to colleagues in other time zones and so forth, now the computer vision algorithm does it in 1 second. 10 million times more productive than a human at that particular task. Now, did this take away astrophysicists' jobs? Think about it before you answer. Did this take away astrophysicists' jobs? Well, the correct answer is no, because there are not 10 million astrophysicists in the entire world. There are not even 10,000 astrophysicists in the entire world. Most of you have never met one. Instead, because the AI algorithm could process these images so fast, there arose an added demand for a lot more images, because even if you have 10 times as many images, it'll only take 10 seconds. Therefore, they are constructing a new dish antenna at Stanford and also in other parts of the world, and especially in the southern hemisphere where the sky is different. And if you're sufficiently far from the equator in either hemisphere, you will see different stars that are visible from the same latitude at the opposite side of the world. And so now a much greater portion of the sky can be examined. So now there are more astrophysicist jobs in the aspects of this process that are not automated yet. And there's also more construction jobs now because they're building more of these radio telescopes. Imagine that. AI created more jobs because it does something 10 million times faster than a human does. Now, this is, of course, an extreme example. This is why I chose it. And it's an example in a very narrow application that does not have any direct impact on our day-to-day lives. But you can work backwards from here. This was a computer vision AI. Where else might computer vision that analyzes a lot of images be useful?